So today, we're jumping into this incredible collection of short stories by Shirley Machado called The Linen Census. And it's all about exploring the secret architecture of our homes, our relationships, and, ultimately ourselves. It's this really uncanny and beautiful look at the spaces we live in, both the ones outside and the ones inside.
But let me just start by asking you something. What if the house you're in right now wasn't just wood and plaster and nails? What if it had secrets of its own? What if it was, well, what if it was alive?
Get this is the very first line of the book, and it just perfectly sets the stage, right? Instantly, you know you're in a world where normal, everyday spaces have this extraordinary secret life. It's not about what's kept in the closet, it's about what lives there. And that idea launches us right into our first major theme. Across all of these stories, Machado uses this really powerful metaphor of the house as a living, breathing body. So, in the title story, we meet Helen. She's living in a house where reality is, let's just say, a little flexible. She might have been married for 11 years, or maybe not at all. And her house? It's just as unstable. It almost seems like it has a will and a body of its own. The book makes the house feel alive in such a real, physical way. It's not just a vibe. The linen closet is described as being recessed as though the house had inhaled and held its breath. When Helen puts her hand on a wall, she can't tell if she's feeling her own pulse or if the house is pulsing back at her. The point is, the house is a body.
And this idea, of a house having this essential physical nature, it pops up in other stories too, like in a great one called Good Bones.
In that story, a real estate agent tells the main character, Nadia, that her new house has good bones. And it's such a brilliant way to get at this core idea of the collection. A house, just like a person, has this unchangeable, essential nature. Sure, you can paint the walls, change the carpet, but you can't change the skeleton. So, if the house itself is a body, what about all the secret spaces we carve out for ourselves inside of it? I mean, what are closets really for? To really dig into this, we go to this town called Verret, where literally every single house is made of glass. Transparency is the law. Privacy is basically seen as a confession that you have something terrible to hide. And our main character, Delia, has just moved into a brand new house with her husband, a house with 0 closets. And this gets right to the heart of Delia's whole struggle. See, the town of Verret believes closets are for hiding awful things. But Delia? She knows that a private space is for keeping precious things. For the town, secrecy equals shame, but for Delia, it's about preserving who she is. So Delia does something totally radical. In a town where she is always being watched, she builds herself a small wooden closet. She literally builds a space of darkness in a world of blinding light. And when she steps inside, for the very first time, she feels like she isn't something to be looked at, but something to be kept. Okay, so if our homes are bodies and closets are these private spaces for our true selves, what about the architecture we build inside our own minds? And that brings us to this fascinating idea of geography as identity. This is probably one of the most wonderfully surreal stories in the whole collection. We meet this young girl, Lura, who just feels empty inside. So what's her solution? She starts eating maps, no joke. She literally consumes geography to build an entire world inside of herself. And you can see her journey here. She starts with maps from an atlas. Then she moves on to a whole globe. But then, and this is the key part, she eats an anatomical chart, a map of a person. She's internalizing the world's architecture, and then a human's. And by the end, she doesn't just contain the world. She can actually speak it. She can create it. And, we build these kinds of secret maps with other people too. In the story Sisters, a field guide, 2 sisters create what the story calls a third language. It's like this private country made of inside jokes and shared memories that only they can understand. It's another kind of inner architecture, one that defines their entire relationship. Okay, so let's try and bring this all together. We've got breathing houses, we've got closets for self-preservation, and we've got these internal maps of our own identities. It's all leading to this kind of final inventory of the self. Here's the thing that really ties it all together. What truly defines us isn't what's on the surface, what's visible. It's what we keep in our private spaces. For Helen, from that very first story, this becomes totally literal. She finally takes a saw to the back wall of that breathing closet to find out what she's been keeping from herself all this time. And this leads us to what might be the most powerful line in the entire collection. Think about it. A census can count people and houses and how many cars you own, but it can't take an inventory of your inner life, can it? It can never count our secret griefs, our hidden strengths, or the things that hold us together when we're all alone in the dark. And in the end, that's what Helen discovers. Behind the wall in her closet lives another version of herself, a version she had locked away for years. The house wasn't just a body, it was her body. The closets weren't just closets, they were the places she stored the pieces of herself she couldn't bring herself to face. The architecture of the house was the architecture of her. And that leaves us with one final thought. At one point, Helen is staring at a bunch of old, sealed boxes in a closet, and this other version of her says, "You know what's in the boxes." And that's really the question the book leaves with us. We all have those sealed boxes, right? In the closets of our minds. We know what's inside. The real question is, are we going to be brave enough to open them?